What we're talking about today is how to pass your Florida real estate exam. Whether that's on your first try or your next try, if you've already attempted that exam, we're going to break down our strategy of how to study for this exam, as well as cover a bunch of sample exam questions here live on the air. So if you have questions about anything or you'd like to see other videos on different topics, put that in the comments because we absolutely do read those. Without further ado, let's head over to the board and talk about passing your exam for your Florida real estate license. And ultimately, you want to do this on the first try, but if you're brand new, on the next try. And what's important with what you're studying is that you pay attention to the percentages of each unit. So some units are going to be more important for the exam than others because not all the information that you learn in your pre-licensing course is important for the exam. There's a lot of extra details. And so what you want to do is reinforce key points. We have a tool for that. It's our audio review. It's part of our PassFirstTry system. And what that is, it's a 5-hour review of just the key points for the exam. What we're going to be really focusing on today is testing your knowledge, and we often have students that like to begin with this step, especially if you've already have done really step one of taking the required FREC course. This question simulator, it's not really the best thing to study off of, but it is the best thing to do exactly this. Aside from the actual exam, that's really the only thing that's going to be better than this, but it's not better for knowing what you got to know because the question simulator, you're going to see the explanations that pop up today. And that's what's really beneficial because the questions and what's wrong, you talk to almost any instructor and they'll tell you that when you're studying off of multiple choice questions, there's 3 times as many wrong answers as there are right answers. So today I'm going to do the best I can to put as little emphasis as possible on the wrong answers, or why something is specifically right or wrong, and really try to focus more on the basic principle or practice that you need to remember. And that's where getting back to the key points in your course, such as in the audio review, that's why it's part of our exam prep bundle here, is it's not just about doing practice questions. Sure, that could really help enlighten you on what topics you're maybe not familiar on, but then you still need to either review the basics, the key points, and that's where the audio review is a great tool for that. But then we also have another tool that's more for going in depth without going to the full detail of the course, and that's our exam cram videos, formerly known as the weekend prep recording, because this is an actual live prep class that follows along with this exam prep book. But instead of trying to cram this into one weekend and stressing yourself out and not retaining anything on the second day because you're burnt out from the first day, you could go through this piece by piece, bit by bit, on your own schedule, 24/7, and interact with it just like you're sitting there in the live class. So that is step 4 to help build your confidence in preparation for the exam. And you might have to go back and forth through these steps. You might then go back to the question simulator to retest yourself. Now, there are over 700 practice questions in the question simulator, but once you've done every single question, there's not really a whole lot of point to going back in here unless it's been a significant amount of time since you've done this and you've forgotten all the answers. Because again, the point isn't trying to memorize these questions, it's just seeing what key points do you need to review in more detail with, such as the exam cram videos. You could go back to read the actual book in your course or review the actual course material, but the thing is, this is so much more detailed than even our most detailed exam prep tool. So the FREC required course to get the credit to take the state exam, we're looking at a 500-page textbook right here. Our exam cram workbook that goes along with the PassFirstTry Exam Prep tools here, this is only 100 pages, 111 or something like that. It's 20% of the length of this here because it doesn't have all the details to provide the legal requirement that you need to take the state exam. But when it comes to studying and review, this is the magic bullet. At least the information in here is. You have to ingest it. And that's where those short, easy to follow videos are what pair with this here to help make sense of this, because there's about 14 hours overall of videos. But 14 hours might sound like a lot. It's way less than 63 hours for this 500-page textbook course. That's the FREC requirement to get your license, a 63-hour course, which in and of itself isn't that long, but you could do this 4 times in the amount of time it would take you to go through the entire course again just once. Or if we talk about the audio review, since this is only 5 hours long, you could go through this 12 times in the time it would take you to go through the course information in this whole course just once. And with our exam prep tools, again, we try to focus on those more important, high likelihood to be on your exam topics. And the topics that aren't likely to be on your exam or are just not even on the syllabus, but maybe there's details in the course that help make it legal or help provide clarity. There's a lot of different reasonings and rationales. And we break down some of that in what we call the secrets of the exam. The secrets of the exam is the final piece of this puzzle of this exam prep bundle here, because the secrets of the exam, it's basically about 2.5, 3 hours worth of exam strategies and tips. Much more focused than just the ramblings of myself live right now here. But really what the ideas we've been talking about, but just much more specific with exactly how you can execute on the strategy that we recommend to use these tools and ultimately pass your exam. From the audio review, that again is 5 hours to review anytime, day or night, 24/7. You log in, you click on the audio review and you listen. Maybe listen to it while you go to sleep. We have it broken down by individual unit to review by unit, or you could listen to the whole 5 hours nonstop right through the TSRE app on your phone, or you could just log in right through the website. That's the same way you'd access the question simulator to test your knowledge and all of those exam cram videos, which again, formerly known as the weekend prep recording. So that's the exam prep bundle. To find out more details and get registered for that, simply head to PassFirstTry.com. But without further ado, now that we've got the sales pitch out of the way, let's get into some actual review. Because I know that's what you're here for. You want to study, and YouTube can be a great resource. And thankfully, the information you're getting here is from Tampa School of Real Estate, where we have over 5,000 reviews. And not to toot our own horn here, but to give you confidence in the information that we're about to share, because there's a lot of information out there. And also at some point, this information will become outdated. If you're watching this when we first published this video, this is all accurate as of right now. But who knows, a year from now, 2 years from now, what laws and rules we may cover today that could have changed. So having accurate, up-to-date information is important. So while I'm about to give away free exam review online here, be wary of any free exam review online, especially if it's information that's not kept up to date, especially if it's based on other state rules and laws. That's one of the things we see with a lot of national exam prep providers when they, work across the entire country, not just here in Florida. There's a lot of different laws and rules that can sometimes bleed over when they try to copy and paste information to other states. I get it, copy and pasting is great, but when different laws are involved, that's definitely something to pay attention to. So what we're going to be looking at here is our actual question simulator. This is part of the PassFirstTry Exam Prep bundle, and what we're doing in this one, we'll actually go back here in the app to the first page here, so you can see where you've got these questions by unit. But what we're going to actually do is we're going to go into the random 100 question practice exam, because this is designed to simulate the actual state exam environment. It's pulling the exact percentages based on the FREC syllabus of how many questions from each unit. The key difference, though, with this is you're going to get feedback immediately after answering every single question. But it does provide a timer in here, so just like the state exam, giving you 3.5 hours, which is ample time, especially as you really start to know this information. If you really know this stuff inside and out, you might be done with a 100-question exam in 30 minutes or so. You're reading it quick, and you're not really second-guess yourself at 30, 35 minutes, but it is possible. But it's not a race. You have 3.5 hours. So let's get into it. Let's get into the first practice question here. Property taxes become delinquent after. We've got A, January 1st, B, March 1st, C, April 1st, and D, April 15th. So question is asking about when they become delinquent. And now, granted, I am a real estate instructor, but I'm still kind of guessing here. I don't have a book in front of me. I don't always know every single rule or law off the top of my head, and I'm a real estate instructor, broker, been licensed for over a decade, so don't stress it and sweat it if you're struggling with this information as a new agent. But let's go ahead and check. Let's see how well this instructor knows stuff off the top of their head. And that is correct. They become delinquent after April 1st. And how I could really explain that to you is I could explain to you, at least from the course syllabus, 2 other dates on here. And then the third date that's the wrong answer here is information from outside the course, which is a great secret of the exam strategy here. So let's break these down real quick, these different answer choices. Again, I want to really focus on what's right and not what's wrong. So let's go through with the one thing first that's not on the FREC syllabus, and that's going to be income taxes. That's April 15th. So if you're familiar with the tax day, as they call it, tax day nationwide, because that's federal income tax day. Nothing to do with state level, county level, city level property taxes. That's April 1st. And where I do like to remember this, I think I actually even say this word for word in the exam cram videos, is that the local government wants to get their money first. That's why it's April 1st, not the 15th. January 1st, this is correct information from your course syllabus. This is when the tax year begins. That is upon January 1st. March 1st is the deadline to file for homestead taxes. So you've got 3 valid dates from your course here. One made-up answer that they pulled in, and it's not even a made-up thing. This is where common sense could hurt you on the exam, because if you think, oh, tax day is the 15th, they're hoping you do that. So don't give them the pleasure. Make sure you know the information from this, and remember that we're dealing with state law, state real estate law for Florida, not federal tax law, which is what April 15th would be about. That's not even a date we cover in the course on the FREC syllabus. If your instructor did bring it up, it was off topic. But regardless, there is a lot of good information here. This is something that you don't typically see in practice exam questions, where you have 3 really good things from the course. And so again, this is the tax year begins. This is your homestead deadline, March 1st. And then April 1st is your delinquency. If it's not paid by April 1st, that's where it becomes delinquent. That's where they start moving towards the tax certificate process, where a certificate is issued, and then investors bid on that certificate in terms of interest rate, where they bid down in lower and lower percentages until whoever's willing to accept the lowest interest rate, they hold the certificate, and now the property owner either has to pay back that certificate plus fees and the interest that that investor bid on, or this could ultimately go to where it's a forced sale if those taxes don't get repaid. But that is the delinquency. Let's take a look at another question. I'm going to try to get through as many as we have time for today, so let's keep it rolling. Let's keep the information flowing. If you want to do these questions, again, PassFirstTry.com. Unlicensed practice of real estate is what type of penalty? Unlicensed practice of real estate is what type of penalty? Well, it is the most significant penalty in the course. And that most significant penalty, you could really kind of see it here, right, if you know what the difference is between misdemeanor and felony. Misdemeanor are lower level crimes. Felony is more serious. We only have one felony option. That's the most serious. A felony, even 3rd degree, is always more serious than even a 1st degree misdemeanor, and it could carry up to 5 years of jail time. And up to a $5,000 fine as well. And so you'll see these answers, these explanations that pop up here. It's really designed to focus on what key point do you want to associate with this question. What's the real thing that you want to remember here? Not what are the wrong answers, because then there's 3 times as many things to remember if you want to remember what's not correct. So don't do that. Don't make it more difficult on yourself, and try not to pay too much attention to those wrong answers, and don't overthink this stuff either. These wrong answers could lead you down a lot of different tracks if you're trying to figure out, well, what is April 15th? Remember, that's not in the course. That's not important. So next question. A square tract of land located between intersecting township lines and range lines is referred to as, we've got a township, a section, a check, and a government lot. So a square tract of land located between intersecting township lines and range lines is referred to as, that's going to be a township. Now, yet again, every single one of these are from the course. They're all valid things that we have here. So a township is the size that we've got here, 6 miles by 6 miles, 36 square miles. They're very large, and when you have the grid that's laid out in the government survey system, you have your range lines, and then you have your tier lines, also known as township lines. And it can be confusing calling those township lines because they create these boxes called townships. And within that one single township, inside of the township, you're going to have sections. But sections are much smaller. There's 36 sections inside of a standard township. Government lot has to deal with fractional bodies of water next to a lake, stream, body of water, something like that. A check is for correcting for curvature. I like to say CCC. I'm sharing with you guys all the sauce today from these exam prep tools, but you know, this video is not 14 hours long. There's 14 hours of videos that go along with this workbook here that has all kinds of little tips and tricks like this as we go throughout these different concepts here. And then again, you have all of these practice questions that you could use here to test your knowledge and see if you know what you're talking about, to see if it makes sense to you. Who is ultimately responsible for choosing the brokerage relationship in a transaction? Who is ultimately responsible for choosing the brokerage relationship in a transaction? Is that the buyer, the broker, the sales associate, or the seller? Well, I'm going to go with my ego here because I'm a broker, and I'm going to say I got the authority. And you know what? I'm right. So even as a sales associate, remember, as a sales associate, you work under a broker. And ultimately, it's our contracts that govern the relationship. But with that contract that we present, we may not give someone the option for which type of brokerage relationship. It may be something that is assumed in that contract by, if we're using transaction broker, it's what is default and assumed. But we should always disclose this, and that disclosure doesn't have to be a big separate formal thing. It could be part of the contract, and it very often is, of what type of brokerage relationship. And so as a sales associate, you may go join a brokerage where the broker says only use exclusive right of sale transaction broker listing agreements, only work in a transaction broker capacity with buyers. And so that's no longer up to your buyer, that's no longer up to your seller, that's no longer even up to you. That's ultimately the broker who has the ultimate authority of what type of relationships are being done within their brokerage. Because all of your transactions you're doing are on behalf of your broker. If you decide to get your broker license, now you could be that big shot in that authority type of position to decide what type of relationships your agents can transact with clients with. Or customers, depending on whether we're talking about single agency or transaction broker. People can be sticklers about that. Ooh, we just switched to units here. We didn't want to do that. Let's get back into our exam. And continue. Which method of legal description uses a point of beginning? So we have the government survey system, the lot and block method, the meets and bounds method, and the plat map. And so these are all real terms from your course, but one of these is not a legal description. The one that's not a legal description at all is plat map. A plat map is used when you have the lot and block method, but a plat map is not a method of legal description in and of itself. And so, as we go through these questions here, again, there's not a lot of stuff that's just simply made up, that's off topic, and that's because, again, we don't want to put wrong information in front of you. That's why, even when we have wrong answers, they're wrong answers that are from the course, but it's just a different thing that's not one of these key 1, 2, 3 things. So when you start to dissect these questions, you could really kind of start to see that. But if you don't know the key points, if you haven't gone through these exam cram videos here, This question simulator on its own, it is available for purchase by itself, questionsimulator.com, but I highly encourage against that. Unless you simply want to really test yourself and see if, oh yeah, I got this. If you want to go more than just the questions we go over today, then sure, get that, but also understand that what you want to study and review is more what's going to be in this workbook, in the videos, in the audio review. Knowing what's in the secrets of the exam that's going to go above and beyond the quick little brief rundown of the strategy and how to study and different exam tips and process of elimination structure for this exam specifically. That's all covered in Secrets of the Exam. You get that whole bundle for just $197 for 1 year access, or you can even get it with TSRE Plus for just $47 a month. No commitment, cancel anytime, and that does include the workbook. If you have questions about any of that, reach out to us, 813-333-2676, or just sign up online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. But let's get ahead and pick our final answer on this one here, because when we're talking about point of beginning, that is only used with the meets and bounds system. The government survey system is the grid, so that township and range stuff we were just doing, that is what goes with the government survey system. The lot and block method, that's where you have a plat map that's filed in advance, but the only method that uses a specific point of beginning and calls it that is the meets and bounds system. If a comparable property is superior in square footage compared to the subject property, the price of the... Now, we're going to pick one of these here, but before we start reading through these, because your head could start spinning reading through these answers, let's think about this. If a comparable property is superior in square footage compared to the subject property, the price, what happens? What happens to the price? So, making sense here, we've got comparable, superior. Comparable is better. The thing I like to always remember with that is CB. For comparable, better, subtract. When the comparable is better, we subtract from what makes it better. So that would align with comparable adjusted downward. So let's go ahead and test our thinking here. And you can see how much easier that is, how much less thinking power when you know what to look for before you start really trying to match up, so to say, one of these answers with what's going on up here, because your brain will play tricks on you to try to get you to believe that one of these is the answer when really it's the last one, which when it is the last one like this, and let's see, let's just double check me, and yes, that is correct, because we comparable better subtract. The comparable is better, we subtract. If the subject was better, that would mean the comparable is inferior, and the comparable then we would add. And one other thing we could have did if we were also like struggling to try to do some process of elimination here is where you see subject adjusted, that can't happen. We can't do that. So you've already got your 50-50 right there. Eliminating those two answer choices that can't exist. They seem compelling because it's the same thing. It's half right, but what's wrong is that we're adjusting the subject because we don't adjust the subject. We don't know what the subject property value is, so we can't adjust it. So next question. How many days does a landlord have to correct a non-compliance complaint received by a tenant? How many days does the landlord have to correct a non-compliance complaint received by a tenant? Your answer choices are 7 days, 30 days, 20 days, and 15 days. So 7, 30, 20, 15. We're asking about a landlord to correct a non-compliance received by the tenant. Again, I don't have a book in front of me. I'll be honest with you, I'm guessing here, but I think 7 days. And that's right. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. I've taught this for years. But, you know, when you're on the spot, a stressful environment, live on the air, or you're taking an exam that you just paid for, that you had to schedule an appointment for. It's a stressful environment that sometimes you don't think as clearly. You second guess yourself. Be careful when you second guess yourself. I knew when I read this here, I was thinking 7 days. Just like that first question, I was thinking April 1st, but I'm like, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm not right? Let me set this up just so I can play it off in case I'm having a brain fart moment here, because no matter how well you know this information, you might slip up. So give yourself some grace if that ever happens throughout any of these questions here. But yeah, next question. A real estate purchase and sale contract becomes valid contract when signed by which of the following? So when will it become valid? Rephrasing the question like this, really again understanding this portion up here before you look at any of this at all down here. Let's just leave that for a second. I'll have to clear it off before we choose an answer choice, but I want to make my point here. We're focusing just on the question so we can think up here before we're distracted by the distractors, because that's what we call the wrong answers. They're distractors. They're there to distract you, to throw you off, to get you thinking about things you shouldn't be thinking about, to get you thinking about things that are outside the course, so don't give those distractors that power. So let's again read this question, put it into our own words, think of the answer, and then we'll look back at these answer choices and figure out which one we like. A real estate purchase and sale contract becomes a valid contract when signed by which of the following? So when does it become a valid contract? When it's signed by who? Well, a contract becomes valid to purchase, sale and purchase, because when we're talking about a contract, contracts have to be in writing and signed typically. If it is purchase and sale, it does have to be in writing and signed. That's the statute of frauds. And who signs it? Signed by which of the following? Well, let's go ahead and clear off my scribbles here and see what we got. There it is, buyers and sellers. There is no witnessing required, so that's not an answer. The broker does not also have to sign this as well. And the sales associate also doesn't sign this. This isn't a contract. Sale and purchase, if we focus on the name of this here, sale and purchase means it's between the buyer and the seller. And that's what you'll see again in this explanation here. This is an agreement between the buyer and the seller. So those are the parties that have to sign this agreement. Jessica purchased a home worth $500,000. She financed the purchase with a VA mortgage loan of $350,000. What is the loan to value ratio? So we've got a home purchased for $500,000 with a loan of $350,000. So already I know it's not going to be zero. You might think, oh, VA loan, no money down, and you're right, but that's not what's going on here, because they only did $350,000 for the loan. And really what we've got to do here to calculate this is we've got to do 350 divided by 500. You could add the extra zeros in there, or you could even take out this and just do 35 divided by 50. That's going to be more than half. I don't have the calculator handy, but you absolutely should. I actually do have a calculator right over here. But I'm going to guess 70%, because I already had my heart-to-heart with you about, I don't care if it shows up wrong here, because I would like to show you a wrong answer, but nope, I picked it right, because it is 70%. And really, the feedback is basically the same. It'll just say incorrect, because it's not about whether you got this correct or incorrect here. It is if you're answering truthfully and honestly, and that really does represent what you need to go back and study, because at the end of this, you do get a report that breaks it down by unit. So out of all 100 questions, how many you got correct out of each unit. So that could be very enlightening if there's a certain unit or two that, oh wow, look at all the questions I missed in that unit. That might point you to what you need to review in these exam cram videos or in the audio review, what you need to prioritize, what you need extra repetition on. That's what this could help you figure out by doing these practice questions. Again, they're not the best thing to study off of, but they are a really good tool to test your understanding. So next question, failure of the broker to post the fair housing poster results in which of the following? We've got A, a Florida Real Estate Commission rules violation, B, a Division of Real Estate violation, C, evidence of discrimination in an event a discrimination complaint is made against the broker, or D, a charge of discrimination. And I think this one's going to illustrate one of our exam strategies here, but let me make sure this is the answer before I tell you what that strategy is exactly, because it makes it obvious, but it doesn't always work. So you can't trust this, because if you use this for every single question, it won't help you on the exam. But this strategy might just work for this question. So if the broker doesn't post the fair housing poster, it technically is not a FREC violation because the FREC doesn't require this. Now, generally speaking, if you're to ask the Florida Real Estate Commission, should I put this poster up? They're going to say yes, but not because of FREC rules, but because of federal. Really, this whole Fair Housing Act is a federal thing. Even this Florida Fair Housing Act is not at all to do with the FREC. So they're not really the authority on matters of this. And if there were any investigation of this here, it would be the Department of Justice at the federal level, not the FREC, not the state. And so Division of Real Estate violation, no. It's not about, maybe they do an investigation and, maybe that could get referred somewhere, but ultimately it's not the FREC or the Division of Real Estate that's going to be issuing any sort of violation in this here. You've got also here a charge of discrimination. Now, just because you forgot to put the poster up, because, maybe you moved offices and you legitimately didn't put the poster up. Maybe it got knocked down. Maybe you forgot you were supposed to put it up, even though it's in your pre-licensing course. Look, there's a lot of things you got to do as a broker, so it's understandable. So not having the poster isn't in and of itself discrimination. But getting back to what I believe is the right answer, now after having read through all the other answers, I do know that this is the best answer. So that's one of the strategies from the secrets of the exam, is that the best answer is not always the textbook glossary answer. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see students make, and that's where the question simulator can be really beneficial, is because if you go into this exam thinking that you're going to be tested on definitions, that's not what this exam is testing you on. It's testing you on your application of the laws and rules that they expect you to memorize. So number one, they want you to memorize the laws and rules, and number two, they want to test your application on that. Because if you don't have this poster up, you've got to pick the best answer out of these ones here. It's not the best answer overall, but it's the best of your choices. But that's not the strategy I was talking about. That's a bonus strategy here. The strategy I was talking about is your last-ditch approach. If you went through this and you're really not quite sure, you couldn't make quite sense of it like I just did right here, but you know what? You say, well, option C is the longest answer. And we call that the desperation strategy. Because if you think just picking the longest answer is going to get you passing the exam, you're definitely desperate. Or it's what you do when you are desperate and you're like, I got nothing else. Maybe you could eliminate a couple of these, and listen, every single one you could eliminate is increasing your odds you're going to pick the right answer here. But this really is the textbook answer for not having the fair housing poster up, is it can be used as evidence against you in a discrimination suit. So in and of itself, it's not any sort of violation. It is something you're supposed to do, but there's not police running around saying, all right, where's your poster? We're inspecting for posters. All right, here's a $50 fine for not having your poster. That's not the point of the poster. The point of the poster is to be evidence for you, evidence that you don't discriminate. See, we got the poster. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's better than not having the poster. Because if you don't have the poster, that's evidence against you, whereas if you do have the poster, it's evidence for you. So with that, especially because that one has such powerful exam strategies, and then, as a matter of fact, that actually is 10 practice questions. So pat yourself on the back because you've gone through 10 practice questions. Hopefully you've picked up some exam strategies along the way with this video. If you want to go back and rewatch this again, absolutely. There's a lot you could probably squeeze out of everything that we've talked about here today. But if you're really looking for the best way to study and prepare for this exam, it's not going to be watching YouTube videos, even if they're mine. It's going to be through the exam prep tools, because those exam prep tools are much more focused. There's not all the distractions that YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching this video on right now is going to have. It's going to dial into what you need to know and just what you need to know. It's going to be trackable. It's interactive. There's a workbook to go along with it. If you're struggling to pass the exam, you need some help, reach out to our office, 813-333-2676. Even if you went to school somewhere else, that's okay. We'll adopt you into the TSRE program as long as you're willing to try, as long as you're willing to persevere, as long as you're willing to not give up on yourself. We're not going to give up on you. So find out more at PassFirstTry.com or get yourself registered and start online right now. Get the studying, download the TSRE app. You could take it on the go. You could take it in offline mode. But if you have questions about any of this, again, that phone number is 813-333-2676. I thank you all for joining us today for this exam review session. Hit the thumbs up button if you'd like to see more videos like this, and make sure you subscribe, because if we do get a much more thumbs up, we will do more videos. We'll go over more questions. We'll give you more free exam prep to help you study for your exam. But if you're serious about passing this exam and making it happen, don't count on free videos on the internet. Go with a proven, trusted system that's been used by thousands to pass their Florida real estate exam, and you can sign up for that system yourself at PassFirstTry.com. That's all the time we've got for today. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week for Ask the Instructor. I hope to see you then. Until then, have a great Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Are you studying for your Florida real estate exam? If you are, you need to check out our Pass First Try strategy. You're going to love this. It's 4 steps that we break down the process to study for your Florida real estate exam. So you're set up to pass your Florida real estate exam, because that's what you're studying for, right? To pass your exam. It's 4 steps. Number 1, you learn the information. You've got to learn this to be able to pass the exam, but it doesn't stop at learning. Step 2, you've got to reinforce the basic, simple, key concepts. As you learn this information, keep reviewing the simple things. You don't need to know everything, but you got to review these basic key concepts. Step 3, you've got to test your knowledge. The exam's going to test your knowledge, so if you don't test your knowledge in advance, you won't find out if you know what you think you know until you take the exam. And then step 4 is be confident and prepared, because even if you know this material, you need to be confident that you know the material. Check out the full strategy at PassFirstTry.com. That's PassFirstTry.com.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.